There's a peptide being studied specifically for its effect on deep sleep, and it's not being talked about enough. It's called Dsip, delta sleep inducing peptide, and I've been using it on and off for a while now, tracking the results with my Oura ring. On the nights I use it, my deep sleep is consistently higher than my average. So today I want to talk about what exactly Dsip is, how to use it, and my experience with it so far. Now, I've covered several peptides on my channel now. Retatrutide, GHKCU, tesamorelin, and more. So if you haven't seen those yet, I'm going to link to my peptide playlist above. But today we're focusing on one that falls into a completely different category. Dsip isn't used for fat loss, it isn't used for metabolic health, although it could be argued that sleep does play a big role in this. This peptide specifically increases your deep sleep. But what exactly is it? Delta sleep-inducing peptide was first isolated in the 1970s. It was isolated from the blood of rabbits during a study on sleep induced by electrical stimulation. The name comes from its proposed role in promoting delta wave sleep, which is the deepest, most restorative stage of non-REM sleep. Despite the name, the mechanism isn't fully understood. Early research suggested it directly induces delta wave activity, but more recent looks at the literature suggest it may work more broadly on stress regulation, circadian rhythm, and cortisol modulation, which then has a downstream effect on sleep quality and depth. Now, it's worth noting here that the human research on Dsip is more limited than tesamorelin, than retatrutide, than other GLP-1s. Most of the foundational studies are decades old, and the sample sizes are small, but the findings are still meaningful. Speaking of the findings, here's what the research shows. The studies that do exist look at a few things. Some research shows increases in slow wave sleep, which is the deep sleep stage associated with physical recovery and memory consolidation. There's been some interest in Dsip for stress-related insomnia, with a few trials suggesting it may help reduce the time it takes to fall asleep and improve subjective sleep quality in people with stress-driven sleep disruption. There's also research in Dsip and cortisol regulation, the theory being that part of why it might help sleep is by blunting an overactive stress response at night, rather than directly forcing the brain into deep sleep. Now, just to reiterate, most of the research on this is older. It is smaller trials, and the exact mechanism is still debated. And this is a case where personal tracking, like I'm about to show you, becomes genuinely useful when it comes to evaluating whether or not it's doing anything for you specifically. So I've been using Dsip about once a week for a few months now, and the pattern in my Oura data has been consistent. On the nights I use it, my deep sleep percentage is higher than my personal average. Now, of course, this isn't a controlled study, so we can't really determine anything definitively here. But I will say, on the nights I use it, it's not like melatonin where it makes you kind of drowsy. It doesn't actually increase the time it takes you to fall asleep, but I do feel more relaxed. And again, subjectively, more well-rested when I wake up. Now, this is one of those ones that they don't recommend using every single day, or your body will get used to it and it won't have the same effect. So I've just been using it in one-off occasions where I really want to have a good night's sleep and wake up the next morning feeling great. For some people, it does make them wake up feeling a little bit more groggy, but this hasn't really been the case for me. I haven't noticed any changes really in how often I wake up during the night or anything else like that. Really, the only positive change is an increase in my deep sleep, which, like I said, I can see through my Oura ring data. So who might Dsip be relevant for? Based on both my own experience and what I've seen in the research, it's probably gonna work best for someone who already has the foundation in place. It's probably gonna work best for someone who's already doing the fundamentals well. Consistent sleep and wake time, a wind down routine, managing light exposure. All the things you should be doing to optimize your sleep, but still maybe you're not feeling that rested. Or if you do track your sleep data, maybe you're seeing your deep sleep is a little bit low. This is not something I'd reach for as a first step before the basics are in place. The original reason why I purchased it was because I started microdosing retatrutide. I've spoken about this in a previous video. And in the first few weeks of using Reta, because it stimulates your metabolism, it can be harder to fall asleep. And that is something that I experienced. I was wired when my head hit the pillow. So I wanted to try Dsip in order to offset that to some degree, especially on days I was pinning Reta. But as I said in my previous video, After the first couple of weeks, my sleep did return to normal. So it wasn't as necessary anymore, but I did want to track my results to see if it had an impact on my deep sleep because I had heard mixed reviews from people who had tried it before. And for me, there was a difference. So this is definitely not a peptide that everyone needs to be taking, but if you're someone who's trying to really optimize and improve your deep sleep, this could be for you. But again, make sure you have the foundations in place. Now, I do have other videos on my channel on how to improve your sleep and not just with mainstream advice. So I will link a video on the screen now if you want to check that out next. And I'm also going to link to my peptides playlist. So if you're curious about retatrutide, tesamorelin, GHKCU, definitely check that out next.